The moment I hit send, I knew everything at Raincrest Financial was about to snap. 5 minutes later, I sat in my parked car with rain sliding down the windshield in restless streams, and my phone vibrating so hard it rattled against the console. My screen lit up again. Marissa Clay, then HR, then a number I did not recognize, probably someone from legal. An hour ago, none of them had bothered to learn how to pronounce my name. I glanced down at the last message. I sent a single photo of my employment contract. Clause 14B circled in thick ink. It looked almost calm on the screen. The kind of calm that comes a second before impact. My phone rang again. Then again. I let it buzz. I wasn't ready to hear the panic in their voices. I wanted to savor these minutes, the ones they never imagined I would have. They really thought this would be simple, I murmured, resting my forehead lightly against the steering wheel. My breath fogged the glass. They fired me today, 4 days before payout, and they thought I'd just disappear. I closed my eyes and replayed the moment I had taken the photo, my hands steady, my pulse steady, the quiet I had not expected to feel. I remembered how my thumb hovered over the send button for a heartbeat, just long enough to accept what I was doing. When I finally pressed it, I whispered the same words I had whispered to myself every time someone tried to push me aside. Today was the wrong day to mess with me. Another call flashed, then another voicemail notification. Human resources, then legal, then Marissa again. All of them wanted to undo something that could not be undone. I watched the screen go black for a moment, the reflection of the glass tower behind me stretching across the dark surface. Raincrest Financial, the place where I had built everything and where they assumed I would collapse quietly. The phone vibrated again, and again. They were not calling out of concern. They were calling because they finally realized what I had just done to them. I took a slow breath, opened my eyes, and let the present slip away as another thought surfaced, clear and sharp. 8 hours earlier, the morning had started the way every morning did at Raincrest Financial, voices carrying down the hallway, printers humming in the background, the faint smell of burnt coffee drifting from the break room. I logged in, checked the calendar, lined up my calls. No signs of disaster, nothing unusual. At 9:23, a notification popped up at the corner of my screen. Please come to room 12B. Signed, HR Department. I stared at it for a second too long. Human Resources did not message me. They emailed. They scheduled things. They did not summon. When I reached room 12B, Mira, the HR representative, was already sitting behind the small table. She didn't smile. Elara Winslow, she said, tone flat. We are terminating your employment effective immediately. Clear out your things before 5 p.m. My breath caught. Mira, what are you talking about? She didn't blink. The company has decided to move in a different direction. That isn't an answer. My voice came out low, steadier than I felt. Who decided this? She shifted her eyes toward the wall, like she wished she could disappear into it. Your boss, Marissa Clay. My stomach tightened. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Marissa, I said quietly. On what grounds? Mira repeated the line. Word for word. The company has decided to move in a different direction. No explanation. No conversation. 3 years wiped out with one sentence. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay controlled. Is this about performance? I'm not authorized to discuss that. Humiliation burned under my skin, hot and sharp. 4 days before quarterly payout. 4 days before the commission I spent months building. 4 days before I could pay part of my father's medical bills at Swedish Medical Center, where his treatments were bleeding my bank account dry. Mira reached for a printed packet. You'll receive a final pay statement in the mail. That's it, I asked softly. After everything, she didn't answer. She didn't need to. This wasn't her choice. I walked out of the room, every step heavy. People noticed the HR packet in my hand and looked away quickly. No one said anything. No one asked. I sat back down at my desk, staring at my monitor, even though the words on it meant nothing anymore. Why would a boss destroy someone's future on the exact week they needed help the most? The shock of the termination clung to me, but underneath it, something older began to stir. 8 months earlier, when Marissa Clay first became director, small cracks had already appeared, cracks I chose to ignore. I remembered the first incident. Elara. "I'll handle this pitch," Marissa had said, stepping into the conference room doorway. I blinked. I already finalized the deck. She smiled with that polished, empty expression. "I'll take it from here." Clients respond better to a unified voice. She rewrote half my strategy overnight. When the client signed the contract, she announced in the team meeting. My adjustments really made the difference. I sat there quietly, swallowing the sting. Then came the delays. Elara. "One more revision," she would insist, tapping on my screen. "That's the third one this week," I said carefully. "We need to show attention to detail," she replied. Or, "Do you disagree every time she said it?" It felt like a test I was not supposed to pass. But the performance notes hurt the most. I found them during one of our check-ins printouts I had never seen before. "Difficulty collaborating," she read aloud. I stared at the paper. "That has never been mentioned." She shrugged. "I document what I observe." Observations. They were lies dressed as professionalism. My phone buzzed on my desk now, pulling me from the memory. A message from Jamie, one of the analysts on my team. "Be careful. They did the same thing to Daniel last fall. Right before payout." I froze. Daniel, the senior strategist who left for personal reasons. He had stopped answering messages after that. I opened my email archives, scrolling until I found something I had forgotten, a thread from 5 months ago. Marissa had tried to mark herself as the primary account manager for a corporate deal I had spent half a year nurturing. She had never attended a single call. Not one. Seeing it again twisted something deep inside me. This wasn't miscommunication. This wasn't oversight. It was intentional, and it was repeated. If this happened to others, why didn't anyone stop it? A thought pushed through the panic, steady and familiar, the way a single clear note cuts through noise. This wasn't the first time I had watched Raincrest pull a move like this. A year earlier, I had stood in this same building when Vicky Hale, one of the strongest senior strategists we had, was called into HR on a Thursday morning. She came back pale, holding a cardboard box. "They fired me," she whispered, 3 days before payout. I remembered how everyone froze. No one asked questions. No one dared. That day left a mark. I learned something important. Raincrest valued money over integrity, and if the numbers were big enough, loyalty meant nothing. So when I earned my own promotion months later, I asked for a meeting with HR and legal. The attorney assigned to my contract, a quiet man named Leonard, had looked at me over the top of his glasses. "You want an additional clause?" "Yes," I said. "A protection clause." We went back and forth for an hour. At the end, we added a line that most employees never knew was possible. If a termination occurs within 10 days of a bonus period, full payout is required and an automatic audit of the decision is triggered. When I brought the final contract to Marissa, she barely skimmed the text. "Elara, I trust this is all standard it is," I said, keeping my voice calm. She signed it quickly, eager to look decisive in her new role. What she didn't know was that I kept a personal scan of every page, saved in an encrypted cloud folder I checked every month. That was the win I had secured long before she tried to take everything from me. And today, 4 days before payout, her firing decision slid perfectly into the protected window. Still, one thing didn't sit right as I closed the contract files on my screen. If I had already locked in my win, why were they so sure I'd fold? I sat at my desk with the cardboard box they'd handed me, the same kind they gave every terminated employee. People walked by quietly, pretending not to stare. I lifted a stack of notebooks and placed them inside, making sure it all looked routine. But I wasn't packing. I was preparing. I opened my email and began forwarding things to my personal archive with careful precision, client praise with timestamps, performance summaries from executives who trusted me, logs showing late-night submissions, some after 11:30 p.m., proving I never once ignored a deadline. As I worked, Derek, one of the junior analysts, paused at my desk. "Elara, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" I kept my eyes on the monitor. "Not really, but I'm not done yet." He nodded slowly and walked away. I clicked into the account dashboard, scanning the current client assignments. My stomach tightened. 2 of my largest accounts worth nearly $200,000 in projected revenue had already been switched to Marissa Clay, effective tomorrow morning. I whispered it aloud, because saying it made the truth clearer. She wanted the payout. She wanted every bit of it. My hands trembled for the first time that morning, not from anger, something heavier. The image of my father sitting in the hospital chair flashed in my mind. The quiet smile he tried to give me when I paid another medical bill using a credit card I could barely afford. If they stole this bonus from me, his treatment at Swedish Medical Center would slip even further out of reach. I sat back, letting the weight press down on me for a moment. My throat tightened. The humiliation in HR's tone, the silence from my coworkers, the coldness of the decision, everything crashed at once. For a few seconds, I felt like I might break. Then I straightened. Breaking was exactly what they were counting on. I picked up my phone and typed a single message to Nora, a labor attorney I trusted more than anyone at Raincrest. It happened. "I need your eyes on something tonight." My finger hesitated above the send button, then pressed it. What happens when someone who's supposed to protect you becomes the one hurting you? I walked back to Human Resources with the cardboard box still tucked under my arm. The hallway felt colder now, as if the building itself already considered me gone. Mira sat behind the desk when I stepped inside, her fingers tapping nervously against a folder she clearly did not want to hand over. "I need the official termination letter," I said. She hesitated, then slid the document toward me without meeting my eyes. "Here it is, Elara. We need you to finish clearing your desk." "I will," I replied, though neither of us believed I would leave quietly. I unfolded the letter slowly. The first line hit like a slap. "Performance-based termination." I let the words settle. "Interesting," I murmured. Mira swallowed hard. "This is standard language. It isn't standard for someone with my track record," I said, keeping my tone even. "And you know that. I cannot discuss details," she whispered, glancing over my shoulder toward the hallway. "Please understand, this is out of my control. Then don't rush me." I stayed exactly where I was. Her discomfort didn't move me anymore. My eyes dropped back to the page. That was when I saw it the timestamp. 11:58 a.m., 2 minutes before noon, 4 days before payout, squarely inside the 10-day protected window of Clause 14b. The clarity that hit me wasn't loud. It was quiet, clean, cutting through every ounce of fear I'd carried since morning. I folded the letter and looked directly at Mira. "You should tell Marissa something." She froze. "What?" That today was the wrong day to mess with me. Her lips parted, confused. Maybe she thought it was just bitterness, a wounded employee lashing out. She had no idea what those 11:58 digits meant. No idea what I was about to unleash. I slipped the letter into my bag and walked out of the room, leaving her staring after me as if she sensed something shifting, something she could no longer control. What happens when the person you underestimated finally decides to push back? I sat in my car during my lunch break. The same gray sedan I had driven to Raincrest Financial for 3 steady years. My hands were steady as I unlocked my phone and opened the encrypted cloud folder I had guarded like a second heartbeat. Every file was exactly where I had left it. I tapped on the contract. Clause 14B glowed on the screen. If a termination occurs within 10 days of a bonus period, full payout is required and an automatic internal audit must be initiated. I highlighted the clause, zoomed in, and took a clean photo. No filters, no edits. Just the truth captured in crisp black and white. Then I opened a new message addressed to Marissa Clay. Before 5 p.m., I suggest you review what you signed. I added Human Resources, Legal, and the Internal Audit Department to the thread. My thumb hovered for only a moment before I pressed send. A faint chime confirmed it had gone through. Immediately, a notification popped up. Your message has triggered a termination dispute case. A representative will contact you shortly. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. 2 minutes passed, then 3. At minute 4, my phone buzzed once. By minute 5, it was vibrating in a frantic pattern across the center console. First was HR, then Legal. Then Marissa's name flashed on the screen. Then again. Her calls stacking so fast the phone barely had time to breathe between them. Voicemails piled up. Email alerts pinged in rapid succession. A text from Legal read, Elara, please return to the building immediately. I watched it all without moving, without answering. Their panic filled the small car like heat. One sentence in a contract had done all of this. If this is how they react after one message, what are they hiding? Human Resources requests your presence for an urgent clarification meeting. The message appeared on my phone before I even stepped out of the car. They did not ask. They summoned. When I entered conference room 16, 3 people were already waiting. Helen Price, the HR director, Stephen Lowell, the company attorney, and an empty chair that told me Marissa was on her way. Helen gestured stiffly. Please sit, Elara. I took the chair directly across from them. No one spoke at first. Stephen cleared his throat. There seems to be a misunderstanding regarding your termination. We're willing to offer a severance package if you agree to sign a non-disclosure agreement. He slid a packet across the table. A non-disclosure agreement, I asked quietly. A standard agreement, Helen added quickly. A small payout in exchange for confidentiality. It benefits everyone. I folded my hands. I'm not signing anything. Helen's expression tightened. This is a generous offer. Before I could respond, the door opened. Marissa stepped in, heels striking the floor like she wanted the sound to intimidate someone. Me, specifically, Elara, she said sharply. The clause you're clinging to doesn't apply. It's void for performance-based terminations. I met her eyes. Interesting, because your performance notes don't exist anywhere except the printouts you handed me. Her face twitched. I set a folder on the table and opened it slowly. Here are my actual reviews from the last year. Not a single negative comment. I slid another page forward. And these are client testimonials from 3 major accounts. Stephen leaned closer, reading quickly. And, I continued, placing one more stack down. Timestamps of every project revision you requested at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., sometimes close to midnight. Not exactly the behavior of an underperforming employee. Stephen looked up, his expression shifting. Marissa, these records contradict everything in your termination report. Marissa's composure cracked. She's twisting this. You do not understand the full context. Then explain it, I said. Her voice rose too loud, too fast. She was difficult. She undermined team cohesion. Helen glanced at Stephen, uneasy. Marissa had just revealed more than she intended. I sat back, letting the silence stretch. What happens when the liar in the room realizes the truth is finally louder? The air in conference room 16 had already shifted, heavy with the weight of what Marissa had just exposed. But the real fracture came seconds later. The door swung open hard enough to rattle the glass. Evan Rourke, head of internal audit, strode inside with a folder under his arm. "Which one of you triggered a protected termination review without notifying my department?" His voice cut straight through the room. Helen stood quickly. "Evan, we were just—" He held up a hand. "Save it." He flipped open the folder. Clause 14B, timestamp 11:58 a.m., audit auto-triggered, and he tossed another sheet onto the table. Discrepancies between the termination notes and Ms. Winslow's documented performance. Stephen exhaled, leaning back in his chair. "That aligns with what we've been discussing." Evan turned to him. "There is no discussion. Raincrest is obligated to issue full payout, immediate processing." Marissa's eyes widened. "You cannot make that call." "This was a performance matter, based on falsified records," Evan asked. "We pulled the digital logs. Nothing supports the claims in your report." Marissa's voice cracked. "HR approved the documentation." Helen's face went pale. We were given files that appeared complete. We did not know freeze all account reassignments," Evan ordered sharply. "And open a full audit into Director Clay's management decisions for the past year." What Marissa stepped back. "You cannot investigate me based on her accusations." "It is not based on her accusations," Evan said. "It is based on your own paperwork." She looked from Helen to Stephen, desperate. "This is a procedural confusion. HR misunderstood. Legal misread the context." No one in the room reacted. Finally, Helen turned to me, her voice low. "Elara, I'm sorry. We should have verified everything before allowing this." She swallowed. "This never should have happened." Stephen closed his folder and stood. "Given the circumstances, the company's best option is an immediate settlement. We need to avoid further legal exposure." Their eyes shifted toward me, not with dismissal this time, but with caution. I rose slowly. The termination letter still tucked in my bag, its timestamp now a loaded weapon they could not take back. I walked out of the room carrying none of the fear I had walked in with. I was no longer the one they could silence or push aside. Now that the building was burning behind me, what future was I walking toward? The settlement papers were waiting for me the next morning. Helen handed them over gently, as if they might break in her palms. "Elara," she said quietly, "your full commission payout has been approved. Internal audit calculated the final number themselves. It exceeds your original estimate. I scanned the figures, more than $40,000 in commissions, plus additional compensation for the forced termination. More than I ever expected. More than they ever wanted to give me." Stephen, the attorney, added, "Your record has been cleared. No performance flags. No termination history. Human Resources will issue a corrected file today." I nodded, not gloating, not smiling, just steady. "I appreciate the correction." Before leaving the conference room, I placed a sealed envelope on the table. "This is my written statement for audit. Dates, emails, documentation, no accusations. Just facts." Evan from audit accepted it with a firm nod. "We'll take it from here. Director Clay is suspended pending full investigation." The words hung in the air. Marissa was out. Her downfall came from the very clause she signed without reading. I walked out of Raincrest Financial with my bag over my shoulder. The same one I had carried into this building for 3 years. Only now. The weight felt different, lighter, sharper, earned. That evening, I sat beside my father at Swedish Medical Center. He looked at me with tired eyes. "You look calmer," he said. "I am," I replied, placing the settlement letter in his hands. "Your treatment continues. We're okay now." His relief was worth more than the payout. Later, when I stepped outside into the Seattle night rain, the air felt clean in a way it hadn't in months. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. A new message from an unfamiliar number. "We heard what happened. If you're open to talking, we'd like to discuss a senior strategist role, a competitor, a fresh start." I stood there in the rain, letting a soft smile rise before I answered. How far can a person go when they stop letting others decide their value?